out. Okay, hello everyone. So glad to see you. With one eye crying, I don't understand what's going on with this eye. Okay, I'm gonna start with sharing my screen with you. Let me get back here. There you go. We have a lot to cover today. We talked about doing the, it's not letting me go back. There it is, sitting at the well. And we are starting the, well, we started actually, I started it with the parenting. So if you are able to get in and watch the parenting, I started there with overcoming anxiety, depression, trauma, and grief. There is a lot of information, and it really applies to both, because whether you use it for your child or you're using it for yourself or you're using it for an adult, it's the procedure is still the same. So in order not to repeat myself on both, although in the parenting, obviously I will be addressing children with more specifically, but you can apply it to yourself, because everything has to be applied to us first before we can dish it out to anybody else. So with that said, if you can, I did talk about some quick techniques on that one, and I am not going to go over them. I'll mention them now, but I won't go over them. You can go and listen to that one. But what I wanted to start was with just an understanding, and we've talked about this before, and you probably has heard about trauma being addressed this way. This eye is driving me nuts. I'm so sorry. It just keeps crying on me, and then I can't see. And it's only my right eye. That is bizarre. Okay. So trauma really, as the PowerPoint says, it disconnects us from ourselves so that we don't have to hurt. And it is just a defense mechanism. It's a coping mechanism that God has given us so that we're able to deal with life and with just being able to keep on going. And then one of the things that we hear a lot, and I know I'm so guilty of saying it over and over, what's wrong with you, or what's wrong with this person? And it is really something that we've heard it, and we just repeat it because we've heard it before. And it is really not, there is nothing wrong with the person, is what happened to that person. Because if you ask me what's wrong with you, you're going to get a wall. You're going to get a reaction out of me. You're not going to get a response out of my heart saying, this is what happened to me, and this is why I'm hurting, or this is why I'm doing this, or this is why I hear you this way. And it's things that happen to us that makes us react the way we do, if it's healthy or unhealthy. And but from our Father's perspective, and this is what we want to target here, is, okay, we know we live in a fallen world. We are among imperfect people, because we're one of them too. And nobody has a perfect parents and a perfect home. Not even Yeshua had it. So we just have to learn to see, what is it that the Father is, if we can see it from his perspective, what is it that it's happening to us, that it is for us, not against us. It is ways that we, events that happen to us so that we learn how to interact with others. There's always a reason for it. It's not just capricious, it's not cruelty, it's not, our father woke up on the wrong side of the bed and he just decided to strike us this day. So it's never like that. So we have to change that perspective. We have to change those glasses. Otherwise, we will see ourselves always as victims. And if you're a victim, you either become a victimizer, but it is very rare that you will be able to see yourself victorious, see yourself as an overcomer. So if we can change that paradigm shift in our minds and say, everything that happens to me is training ground. My Father is training me for something. There is a purpose for this. Then I'm able to receive what's happening and digest what's happening and find the good side out of it so that I can overcome and not stay under and be a victim of it. So one way that we need to see not just children, but ourselves, is that when we are traumatized, when a traumatic event happens in our life, if we stay in that traumatized state, it's not just because it hurts. Obviously, if I break my arm, the pain is going to continue physically, but emotionally, if I stay in a trauma state, is because I have no one to validate me. I have no one to help me deal with it. Not to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, because that's just it creates a deeper rut in our brains and in that trauma. It's kind of like putting salt on a wound. You just let it be. You let it heal, and you don't keep picking the scab off and make it bleed again. And that's what we do when we're retelling the story over and over. So, but if we have somebody that can help us deal with that pain, then there is healing from it, and then there is a perspective about it, because we're not dealing with it alone. And if it's a child, you have to remember that a child doesn't have the understanding of why things happen, that we are created in a way that we look up to those that are taking care of us to give us that prefrontal cortex. Remember, that executive thinking, that reasoning, that logic. And if that person is not there, we don't know what to do with what just happened. We don't know where to put it. We don't know how to, see heads and tails from it. There is no logic behind it, because we don't have that part of our brain developed yet. So we need somebody that is with us. We're not in isolation. Isolation is destructive to our inner sense of attachment. We were created to attach to somebody else, because babies cannot survive on their own. Somebody has to feed them, clean them, give them love, etc., so that they can develop healthy. So attachment is really the basics of how this all develops, how the trauma develops. And because it is such an instinctual sense that God has given us so that we can survive, then you remember the survival mode is that basal part of our brain, and that is the physical part of us. And it helps us know that we are safe, and we need to be safe in order to grow. Then emotionally, it also helps us know that we are attached to someone, that we're connected, that we belong to someone. And that when those two, I've said this before, and I will continue to say it because it is so important that is drill in our minds. We need to know that we're safe and we're loved if we want to think, in order to get to that place of thinking. And you'll see today in what we're going to cover how one thing with the other are so important, because otherwise you see adults that act like children and you wonder why. And it's because that part of their brain, that executive brain function, it's not developed properly. So really, they don't have, one, the skills to do what they need to do, and two, they can't think. And when you're not thinking, when those two are not answered positively, am I safe? Yes. Am I loved? Yes. Then I can think. If those two continue to be, no, I'm not safe, and no, I'm not connected, no, I am not loved, then you have somebody that is struggling all the time, going from survival to limbic, trying to find that, and they are not stable. They will be going up and down, and that is, it's a horrible place to be, for sure. So let me go to the next one. And here we see, and this is an image that I would love for you to have it branded in your mind, is that we are kept secure in his hands, whatever we face. And I know sometimes we go through really hard times and we think, where are you? If you really exist, God, I don't feel you. You are not protecting me. I'm not safe. And it feels very lonely. And if you can see that little hand is barely holding on to, but it's closing, the little fingers next to onto that big hand. But whether those little fingers let go or not, the big hand doesn't. So let me see that. Going this way. Yeah. So if I'm holding you, you can hold back and hold me, or you can let go, but my hand is not letting you go. And that's one thing that we have to remember. Our Father is not a liar, and he says he will never leave us nor forsake us. He means it. He is not leaving us nor forsaking us, but it may feel that way. And going back to that attachment, we are created with these chemicals. They're called endorphins that are there are receptors in our brains that need those endorphins, that chemical that helps us deal with pain, help us deal with discomfort, and so that we know that we can attach to someone, that we can trust someone, and to feed us, to take care of us. So when that is not happening, when we're not creating those endorphins, and those endorphins are created by the love and the care that we give to a baby. It's amazing when most adults, most moms would kiss their baby over and over around the face all the time. We just love to kiss that little face. And one of the reasons for it is instinctive reaction to do that. But the truth is that we are giving the baby some of our germs. Our mouth are very dirty. Some of our germs, and helping the baby little by little create those antibodies and create that defense mechanism. That immune system gets strengthened little by our kisses. And but that also, because it feels so good in the baby's face, create this endorphins. Those chemicals go into those receptors, and it just feels like this warm blanket on the baby, and the baby feels love, feels attached to you, and then it develops healthy. Well, if that baby was never given love, was never given affection, was barely taken care of, and sometimes even like, look at this, oh, this smells horrible, and all they see is our faces when we're taking care of them, and we're hurrying up. I've seen so many babies that the moms just prop the bottle. That when we feed our babies, that's why we feed them with our breast, is we are creating that connection. The baby feels our skin, feels the warmth, sees our face, we're this close to them. But when you just prop something that it's cold and rigid, and you put just something to hold that bottle in place, and you leave the baby, that moment of nourishment is not attached with love. So to them, eating becomes this either, and that coin has two sides. It either becomes this thing that, I don't care if I eat or not, and they may eat only when they're really, really hungry. Or you get the other side of it, is like they are, at least the food is giving them some comfort, so then they eat all the time. It's not that they're hungry. They are looking for affection. They're looking for connection. They're looking for that feeling that we were supposed to have when our mom was feeding us. So it's it's such a vicious cycle. But then that's what creates addictions too, because that chemical is similar to, heroin or codeine, any of the opiates. And when that kid that has never had that attachment, never developed that growing up, or on the contrary, they always say, "Oh, shut up, stop crying, don't, go away." They're constantly being pushed away and rejected. When they get to those teenage years and they're no longer where you can see them, and they're with bad friends that are going to give them exactly what the body has been longing. They don't even know why they long for it. That the body was created for that. And then all of a sudden they get their first hit of a drug. And that's what predators do. They drug their victims because they know that immediately they're going to feel that warmth that they were supposed to feel when they were with you as a baby with their moms. And all of a sudden they just feel this warm embrace. They feel love. They feel secure. They feel that, I don't know that secure would be the right word. I guess security, because they don't feel pain. And if you are living in an anxiety of depression, you feel pain. So then that is a moment that you're not anxious anymore. You're not depressed anymore. So you feel that was supposed to be created within you, a natural chemical that our body creates to give us that, to alleviate the pain that we may encounter in this life, that the stress of, whether it's good stress or bad stress, whichever it is, that we all encounter, that those endorphin levels are supposed to be able to alleviate that. But if you do not have that, then you get this rush by the drugs that you're taking, the external chemical that attaches to those receptors, then that does create addiction. And that's why it's so hard to give up, because it creates dependence, because we long for it, we want it, we need it, we were supposed to have it in order to develop healthy. So you get then a lot of addictions, and addictions doesn't always have to be drugs. You can create addiction by exercising. There are people that exercise day in, day out, and are constantly, because they're producing those endorphins and it feels so good. So there is that desire to have that feeling. We can have it with chocolate. Dark chocolate is a wonderful, not the candy chocolate. That candy is just getting you hooked to the sugar. But dark chocolate creates those endorphins too. And there's a difference between the two, because the candy chocolate is going to give you a high because of the sugar, and it drops you. And it obviously create a lot of other problems, like obesity or diabetes, etc. It can create some illnesses. But the dark chocolate will produce those endorphins, and they're usually not that sweet. So depending on what you buy, it's a good. That's why we say, "Oh, I just want some chocolate," and that's the reason why we do. Or meditation. Meditation produces those endorphins too, and it makes you, when you worship. Most of you probably can give me an example of that. And you are just taken into that place of worship, and you forget about who is around you. I know I do. It's like, I don't care. I am just belting it out. I am loving him with everything in me. And I don't care who is around me, who's watching me, if they are watching me or not. It's like, this is my moment of intimacy with my Father, face to face. And that creates that amazing feeling. And sometimes I know I had for a while. I remember when that song came out about when the music plays and that I can't remember all the words, but Matt Redman was talking, being putting down worship, because you end up worshiping worship and not him, because it feels so good. So just making sure that I'm not just singing because I like to sing, but I'm singing because I want to express that love to him. So that is how that attachment and that addiction is caused and developed. And it is important that we understand that when people, that helps us have compassion on others, that when people are talking about their you see them, they're addictive to, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, painkillers, it is not coming out of, oh, they just have no self-control, or they're just losers, or they're just, because there is, people become more workaholic. That can produce that too. Anything that makes you get into this rhythm of creating this the endorphins in your body so that you can feel good about yourself, it was not given to us in order to do that. It was given to us so that we can develop properly. So that just tells the same thing there. And so there's another one that it's really interesting, and it is clutter. I don't know if this is new to you, but I know that I never made that connection before. And this is a vicious cycle that happens a lot. And sometimes, and this is another one that is good to know, is like, why are our kids so, why are their rooms like, they look like a bomb just went off, and there's stuff everywhere and they don't remember anything? If you put the things where they belong, you would remember where they are. And we repeat all these things, and our kids are looking at us like, I don't know, where is this? I don't know, help me. And there is a very real and painful reality in their hearts. And when we push them and we put them down because of it, we're not helping. We're just creating more trauma. And let me tell you, I just want to make sure that you understand this. I'm learning all this as an adult. Well, obviously when I got married, I was an adult and I had my children as an adult, but I mean, as a granny, in my 50s, I started to go into brain health. And it's not every psychology courses that I took before my 50s, before I started learning on brain health and trauma, were all it was a very old psychology that taught, like, you force your kids to time out and you keep them there, and you make sure even if they scream or not, you leave them there and you go away. Well, that is like the most barbaric thing to do. And I did it. I did it because that's the way it was supposed to be, the right way. You're supposed to put the kid away and let him come up to, why is it that, think about why you're there. Think about, really? Kids, when they are in pain, when they don't feel loved and they don't feel connected, do you think they're thinking? No, they're not. They're not thinking. So that whole psychology was so wrong. And the pendulum have gone, I'm 61, so I've seen it gone one way to another. It was like completely disciplinary. And then came in the 70s, like, oh no, just let them be. They can do whatever they want. And there was no boundaries, no parameters. And then that was another warped generation. So we have one that it was like strict and you do whatever or else, and you have the other one, you can do whatever you want. I love is all that matters, and no parameters, no structure. And then you have then the psychologists that went in between those two. And I can tell you, and I have many books that would corroborate one or the other, and they don't work. Then why do we keep learning? Why do we keep searching? And thank God for neuroscience that have shown us a lot of things, how the brain really works, so that we're able to see, no, there was kind of right about putting the kid away or tell him to go to a place to calm down, but not the way timeout was a structure. Timeout was structured to don't have anything around so that they don't get distracted, and they actually feel the pain of what they did, and they can think about the consequences of what they did. Well, I love conscious discipline. Dr. Becky Bailey, that's the training, one of the first trainings that I got in this neuroplasticity and understanding how our brain works, and the importance of not creating what this vicious cycle in this what you have in front of you is going to be more on clutter, related to clutter, but it relates to any of them, any type of, because it goes, trauma affects the limbic system. So the limbic system, remember, is that part of us, is the emotional part of us that needs to find that connection. And so besides the clutter, I'm going to give you another example. So the little girl wants a cookie before dinner, and mom says, no, you can't have the cookie before dinner. And the little girl just goes, wah, and I want my cookie. And it's like, no, you're going to wait until you have your dinner, and then you can have your cookie. Well, she doesn't understand that. All she knows is she wants a cookie. And so if the parent happens to be the child of a parent that was a disciplinary, and probably in their home, if they happen to have like alcoholic parents or workaholic parents or any type of parent that couldn't tolerate to hear screams or anything like that because it would trigger them, or they were taught that good children don't scream. And so when you get all that, however that is digested in that adult's life, they're going to pass it on to the child. Well, the only thing the child is hearing from this, because they remember their prefrontal cortex is not working until it starts working at 7 years old, not before. And by 7, it's starting to develop. It's not completely developed until they're at least 20 years old. So pretty much until they leave your house. You are their prefrontal cortex. So as I was trying to say at the beginning, all this I've learned after I had raised my kids. So I made as many mistakes as you probably are making or more. So don't think that I'm coming at you as like I'm such an expert and I did everything perfect. And let me tell you how it works for me, because it didn't. I am in this with you. And I pretty much learned, and I'm teaching my grandchildren and with other people's children. So with that said, anything that creates a stress, so that little girl, all that she sees is that, she keeps crying, she keeps screaming, and mom keeps saying no. And she could have started being, no, you're going to wait until dinner. And she's still, she's not going to have it. She wants a cookie, and she's going to continue to scream, and she may even have a temper tantrum. And it gets to a point where mom, then it becomes this, I told you, stop screaming, or whatever it is that she says. All the little girl is seeing is a very stern face. And if on top of that, mom says, go out to your room, go over there, time out, sit down until you can calm down, and or however it is said, all the baby knows is that I need to be attached to you, and your face and your voice is telling me to go away, is rejecting me, but I need to be attached to you. Therefore, that coin has two sides. I'm going to say, yes, mommy, and say whatever you want me to say because I need to be attached to you. I need you. Or you're going to get the other side of the coin that she's going to get even more rebellious and is going to scream even harder and is going to try. Then she doesn't feel loved. Now she doesn't feel safe. So she's going to start breaking things or pushing things because then we become physical, right? When we get to that survival mode. And then in her mind is little girls that get angry don't get loved. That's what she hears. It's not that good girls don't scream or good girls don't get angry. No, girls that scream or get angry don't get loved. And that is a very dangerous preposition in the mind of a child, because then in order to be loved, they may do things that they shouldn't be doing. And they create a little pattern that it will develop and get very risky for them in their teenage years. So we see that trauma affects the limbic, that causes stress, then the stress will create cortisol to rise above normal levels. Because a little cortisol is okay if something is happening, you see your child rushing into the street and all of a sudden you run to get that baby and save it and scoop it out of the street, out of danger. So that is good cortisol. There is nothing wrong with that, is or adrenaline for that matter too. They're both created at the same time at that point. But when it is not because you need it, but because the stress is creating that for you, then that will affect your executive function, which, like I said before, if they're under 7, it's not really working at that point anyhow. But if they're above 7 years old or adults like you and I, all of a sudden when you're stressed, you're not thinking. You're not thinking. It's just not that you don't feel safe, you don't feel loved. It is that I am so stressed out that I can't think, because it does affect the memory, and it affects organization, because this is the part of the brain that helps you get things organized, has logic, has order. And when that doesn't happen, then all of a sudden is the room of your teenager that they put this on, no, they put this on, no, and they're looking for something and they just go like that and take things out of drawers, and you're thinking, how is that even logical? How can you may find it, but then you have to clean up all this mess. You're not thinking. Correct. They're not thinking. So at that point, that creates so that they find whatever they were finding, or they may not find it, and they will cry out to you to help them find it. But then the room is a mess. So that creates even more stuff, more disorder, more clutter accumulates, and that makes them even more stressed. Cortisol level keeps high, and we have then that vicious cycle then starts all over again, from 1 to 9, all over again. So when we see clutter, and we see that, instead of, can you fix this room, clean up this mess and all that, it should be a sign that there is a stress level that we probably need to sit down with our kid and say, what's going on? Or with our loved one. I just had that conversation with my hubby. I sometimes get so stressed if I have clutter around me, I make piles, because at least I know what those things are, and it creates a sense of a little more order, right? So instead of just getting upset that there are piles in the room, at least I'm working towards something. And it is important that we have that patience with one another and realize that it's not that the person is, especially people that are very organized and all of a sudden they become disorganized, and you're like, what's going on? This is not like you. Well, the stress level may be higher than what that person can take, or there are certain things that are missing that are not there to help create that organization, and then like moving and COVID moving into your house, instead of going to an office, all of a sudden I have to create an office into my house that I didn't have an office here. So, all those things, and just be able to have that um, perspective of there is something else creating this problem, and this is not what is wrong with you, is what happened to you. And especially right now, we can probably say that COVID has happened to a lot of us, and it has hit every home differently. There are people that have lost their jobs. There are people that have lost loved ones. There are people that got sick, and then they're trying to stay healthy to take care of a sick person, and then they get sick, and then it's just a vicious cycle all over again. Or if they can't go out and work, a lot of people didn't have jobs that had enough days, sick days to cover. And then if you don't work, you don't make money, depending on the type of job you have. And then, of course, you get all this, one thing affects the other. Okay, I just wanted these two pictures to be in your mind. Leaving this right now, when God steps in, miracles happen. So remember, because we're starting the book of Exodus this week, and just remember that even when things were created and God did say to Abraham, your children, your descendants will be in slavery in a land that is not their own, and all that, it was already known that was going to happen, and God allowed it to happen. And then, but God steps in the midst of all that for a reason that I'm not smart enough to tell you that I just know exactly what his reason was, but I do trust him. He's a good father, and no matter what, I'm secure in his hands, whatever I face. And there is a reason for everything that happens for me, so that I grow in compassion and mercy and truth and loving kindness, to forgive, to be able to be like him, and not allow the sins of my parents to, they will visit me, but I don't have to open the door, and I don't have to entertain them and let them in. So we learn all that in the process of whatever we face. So keeping that in your minds, here we go. Now, the other thing that I had mentioned in the one for children, there are certain techniques that are good for us. It's important that we at least have that in mind. We may not change what's happening around us, or it may take longer that we would like it to be, but we can do something about it in the midst of it. So we talked about aromatherapy. There's a lot of oils that affect, because all this trauma and everything that we were talking about, it was the limbic, right? And the limbic is where all the feelings, all the senses are located in that library in the amygdala. So we want to help. There's a lot of oils that will help calm down those centers of our brain. There is also music therapy. Like I said, with worship, it is, we just met this person, Pete and I, we were in this timeshare, and he was telling us how he deals with his PTSD and his singing. He's Mexican, and he loves to sing mariachi music. And it's funny because he said he went to Afghanistan in several tours, so he had a lot of PTSD, and he was saying how he came up with his own therapy, because every psychologist and psychotherapist that he went to, all they wanted was to hear what happened to him, and he would repeat it over and over, and it never really helped him, which is logical, because if you keep repeating and repeating and repeating, you're just making that event stronger and stronger. Remember, everything that comes up to the surface, if you don't deal with it, it goes down stronger into the subconscious. So it comes up, you deal with it, but just talking with it is not dealing with it. You have to do something to change that, and you have to restructure what that meant. What was it for you? What did you learn from it? And then be able to work with that. So there's something that we have to do. And music therapy, it could be one. There is meditation, of course. Prayer is excellent. It's actually the first one that we should go to. I remember seeing this bumper sticker that said, "Before 911, call your father." And it's true. We need to go to God first. And what do I do with this before we hit the phone and start calling all our friends? So the other ones that are very easy for us to do, especially if you're in a place where you cannot pull away and you can't leave. Let's say you're at work or you are taking care of your children. There's something that you have to do that you cannot just let go. It is rubbing your hands, and I've taught you the one where you do this hand technique, and but it requires a lot more thought and time involved, and you may not have a lot of time. You may not have time to really develop, the thought at that moment. But a lot of times when our brains are not thinking, our two hemispheres need to connect in order for you to have, because not just physically, but emotionally, to have a good response to whatever you're facing. A lot of times there is not good communication between the two hemispheres. And this is a good one for that. So you can warm up your hands like this. And it's really interesting because a lot of people do that just by, oh, something went wrong and oh my gosh, and we automatically start doing this thing with our hands. We either clench them, which is a great way to relieve stress. You clench your fist and you let go. You can clench your fist and let go, and that helps create, because remember we talked about how our hands have pressure points that go to all our organs. You are like shocking your organs and making everything to kick in. And if you are getting numb because you are disassociating, you're just leaving reality. And a lot of times we learn to do that because we can't cope with our reality. Then this is one that will bring you right back into, I'm here, just to feel. Why do you think people cut themselves and hurt themselves? Is because they're numb and they're trying to feel again, trying to, even if it's painful, to feel that they are here, that they're alive, they're not, in another reality, so to speak. So this is a good one that helps both hemispheres to communicate in case that it's there is a disconnect. Another one is called the pretzel, which is funny. Charlie put a picture of a challah, like somebody doing yoga, and their legs look like a challah. They're all twisted in. And Dr. Becky Bailey teaches one that it's called the pretzel. And the pretzel is, you put your hands like this, thumbs down, and put one on top of another. Close your hands with each other, bring it in, put it on your chest. You put right leg over your left, if you're standing, and you put your tongue all the way top to the roof of your mouth. That twisting of my body, I look like a pretzel, my legs and my arms, right, are forcing the two hemispheres to communicate with each other. Then I normally, if I'm going to go right over left, then I go left over right, and I just do it the other way and switch my legs, put left over right. And the tongue and the roof of your mouth calms your fear center in the brain. So, and then you just take a deep breath. And it's good to hold it and just make sure that when you exhale is longer than your inhale. and that will bring a calm feeling to your body and your mind. There are also, this is a good one to teach children. It's called the diaphragmatic breathing. And what it is, you can lay back and put your hands on your belly, or you can put, like if it's a child, you can put a teddy bear on their belly and just say, okay, let's breathe and bring that teddy bear up. So when you're breathing with your belly, you are pushing your belly is going up, you're breathing in, and then when you exhale, then your belly goes down and the child sees the teddy bear go down. So what we're doing with that, not only the breathing is helping, because a lot of times when we are nervous, when we are afraid, we do shallow breathing. We breathe like this, and that just creates more anxiety and creates more less oxygenation in your brain. And the less oxygen you have in your brain, the less you're able to think and create all the processes that your brain needs to take care of your body. So that breathing from the diaphragm helps with that. But then you're also, because they're holding something and they're focusing on something, then that changes their attention. It is refocused now in something else. And that's what we do with our hands. It's not just physically all that's happening, but emotionally, I am concentrating and putting my hands and doing this, putting the tongue and switching my legs. So all of a sudden, whatever was causing me to be fearful, there's been a shift in my thought pattern. So that also helps. Then what is the other one? So we have, and there's another one that it's called warming hands. And that is when the parasympathetic response is triggered, then the blood vessels constrict, because we need the blood to go, whether it is to your legs or your hands. If you're doing something with your hands, or you have to run, or you have to lift something up, you have to pick up, whatever it is, that's the way our body responds. The sympathetic is the one that does that, right? Remember, I talked about the sympathetic is the pedal, the gas. So you are going, so your body just constricts so that you can go. But the parasympathetic is the one that puts the brake. So we want our body to relax and calm down. And so the parasympathetic makes all our vessels to relax. So there is not that kind of like when you are trying to water your plants and you squeeze your hose, the pressure is stronger, right? It goes farther. Well, if you let it go, then the water just falls right there. It's the same thing with our vessels. So our body just calms down, and you are able to, and you take a deep breath, so you're able to calm down. But the warming the hands, what happens is, if my my vessels in my hands and my feet are very small, and if the pressure is the sympathetic part of my nervous system kicks in, and it is constricting all my vessels, it's so that the blood can go to bigger, your arms can go to your legs, it can go to your body, it can go to bigger areas. And so then, because of the lack of the blood is actually what keeps us warm. Your hands get really cold. So if you touch somebody's hand and they are, they're afraid, or they're having an anxiety attack, and you see that their hands are really cold, try to warm them. If it's your child, you can just warm their little hands. You can create some friction, and that will calm. That will trigger their parasympathetic to calm down. Another thing, you can put their hands in warm water, You can grab something that is warm. You can put something in a microwave and give them one of those little pillows that you can warm up, and you can have them hold it, and that will calm them down. And another thing that you can do is take them to a safe place. So you can talk to them and say, oh, like I'm looking at your picture right now, Mary Catherine, and I'm thinking of you being at the beach with the kids. And then you can say, oh, remember when we were at the beach and the sand was warm? And then you can start talking to them about things that are warm. Or I know you love to get into the bathtub and we put bubbles and it's nice and warm, and so you keep repeating the word warm, and you bring warm stories and visuals to their mind. All that the mind is incredibly powerful. So if we can do that for them, that calms them down. So I think I covered all of those. And so any questions?
I have a question. Well, I think yes. Between me and Sarita, the chat has been blown up.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I haven't seen it.
You have probably two of the most talkative girls in the Rooted Cafe on one call. It's going to be big, but
I love you both.
I know. And so back kind of toward the beginning when you were talking about attachment stuff.
Yeah.
And it's my opinion that it wouldn't be possible, but I don't know what the science is. Is it possible to like attend too much or like create over attached children? You know, like I've been told because my kids don't cry it out that I'm not teaching them. And I know you said it's not about self-soothing or whatever. They don't know. But like, there's certain things that I'm like, is she too attached to us? You know, with Rhea, or like, I don't know. I don't think it could be, but I just wanted to know, is there such a thing as like overly soothing your kid or smothering them with too much love? And
well, I don't think anybody would die out of too much love.
Yeah.
because our Father has perfect love, and he loves all of us. And I don't think there's a lot of us that don't even feel that love, right? At times. So there is something in our bodies that would that is able to regulate that or reject it, or however it is. So I don't know that you can be loved too much.
Now that back to the whole like when your kid is screaming and whatever, in the chat, if you go back and read it, I don't know if you read the chats, but I said something like, in those moments is when I feel the most stress. That's when I, as a parent, I'm like, oh
when they're
my
crying.
gosh. Yeah, it's just this. And I don't know if it has to do with my dad's reaction to how I was, or if it has to do with the fact that I had auditory processing. And so like certain noises actually like really hurt, like they like hurt my body. I'm just like hot. Some noises make me hot. Like I'm like, it's too loud, it's overwhelming. But then it also, I think that's probably how my dad felt, you know, and it's just like, especially girls, a lot more emotional. So it's like a lot more crying.
Okay. So, because you're tackling too many things. Let me go back to the first one that you asked about the love. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, taking that aside, then it is a child under the age of 1 can never be spoiled. Oh, don't do that. You're going to spoil the child. Until the baby is able to take care of themselves, you are it for the baby. So if you cannot give the baby what the baby is needing, you are not creating trust. The baby knows I have a need, and she is not, you know, she's neglecting me pretty much. And I can't trust her. So then a lot of times what you get is a child that has a hard time attaching, and a child that will not trust others. So no, that whole thing that, oh, you're going to spoil that child every time it cries, you go in or let them cry. No, because you don't know what the problem is. Now, if you go and let's say the baby never cries, because every time the baby cries, you hold the baby and you're like up with the baby and you become, the big giant pacifier, then the baby never learns how to take care of himself. But the baby needs to know that you care. So the baby cries and you go and you say, what's wrong, baby? If it's, you calm them down, you check on them. If they can't talk, obviously, you just have to check the baby. You pick up the baby, you bring the baby to you. You need to calm the baby down. And then I know that if that is your case, you're going to have to take care of you first. Remember, the mask goes on you first, and then you take care of the child. Okay, the baby's not going to die if you go and pick him up a minute later. That minute is your minute. You put that mask on. So you calm yourself, you put your hands in water if you have to, you go and get some oil to breathe. You take deep breath and you come down and you say to yourself, I can handle this. I'm okay. I can handle this. Let's see what's wrong with my baby. And then you go, because then you are calm. When you pick up that baby, you are going to bring you're going to download your calm to the baby. So, okay, hold on, baby. Shh, you're okay. You're okay. Let's see what's wrong. Mommy loves you. And you say all these things to calm him down. Breathe with me. You can handle this. You can. And if you have to continue because you feel like you haven't calmed yourself down enough and the baby is still crying and you have to go because the baby crying is making you even more nervous. So it's not working. So then you calm yourself with the baby. And as you do that, you're teaching the baby what to do. Breathe with me. And you're holding your baby and you're doing this for you, not for the baby. The baby will eventually get it, but you are calming yourself down. And then as the baby is bigger, like, Raya is not, a baby. She understands. And then you can say, baby, can you lower your voice and be very, stop screaming. No, baby, it hurts mommy's ears. It hurts me. Can you cry? You're not telling them not to cry. Obviously, I can see that something is hurting. Oh, but that hurts mommy's ears. And then she eventually will realize, she'll see your face, she'll see this, and then eventually that picture will stay in her brain. And then she will know, oh, when I scream, mommy goes like that. And then she will learn to lower her voice. And then, I'm hearing you, baby. I'm right here, but just don't scream, please. Tell me what it is, and hold her hands. Make sure that she feels connected with you. It's like, stop it. I can't stand it. Don't do that. Those are the things that in their little brains go, oh, I'm not going to be loved. Mom's going to get angry at me. And then you get, that weird, does whatever you say, or gets really angry at you and goes the other way. Okay, so that is you first, then the baby. Now, if the baby, if your child, if it's not a baby, you need to know if you are being the pacifier and the baby just wants you to calm them, then you can be close to them and have something, and let's say use the teddy bear. Okay, mommy's gonna calm herself down. Here, you have yours. Let's do it together. And you just lay down with her. I don't feel good, so I'm just gonna calm myself down right now. And you say it out loud, everything. And I'm gonna breathe. And my teddy bear goes up, and now the teddy bear goes down. And let's see if yours goes up. Oh, yours is not moving. I think yours wants to go up. And you just try to change that, whatever it is. And then by the time she comes down and says, obviously she's not bleeding or something that you have to take care of. And then you can say, okay, what was wrong? Why were you crying? Tell me more about that. Are you okay? And then, no, so and so. And most likely she will tell you, he took that from me. He hit me. In the midst of the screaming, she will tell you what's wrong with her. But if it's probably you pick her up in the middle of the night, she's screaming because she has a nightmare and she has no ways to tell you what it is. You have to calm her down first. So said, were you having a bad dream? And what was it? You want to tell me? And you want to talk about it? And then you can go there and she may calm down and say, no, I don't want to talk about it. I said, okay, I'm gonna sit here with you until you fall asleep again. Is that okay? Yeah, thank you, mommy. Or, whatever happens there. But you will know when your child, now, if she throws the teddy bear and no, she doesn't want to, and no, and she just wants to jump on you and she wants you. So at that moment, please do calm her down. Please do whatever it takes. But I would say, yes, you have become her teddy bear. And you're going to have to, not at the moment, you calm her down and you take care of the situation, but later on when she's okay, then you can teach her, let's practice this. This is really good. I know you didn't want to do it the other day, but I think this is really good because sometimes mommy may not be there with you. And then you need to know how to do this. And so then, when she's happy, etc., she's not hungry or tired, then you can teach her those things. And then you will know, yep, she is getting too attached to me. And it's not like, I wouldn't even say too attached to me. I would say I have become her soothing blanket and she needs her own. That's just.
Well, with the whole like clutter topic too, like, when they're like 4 and 5, is that an indicator, or is, because a lot of them at that age, they're just kind of exploring, or is that like, if they don't clean up their mess, is that like a red flag?
Well, no. What it is, a red flag is, remember, you're teaching them. You are their executive brain function. So when you say, let's clean the room, it's not go and clean the room. They do not know if they don't have the skills to do that on their own. Okay, let's go. Mommy's going to help you clean the room. And you go and you need to tell them what to do, not just pick it up, put the shoes where they belong, clothes where it belongs, where they belong. In the moment that they know you're upset and they can think. And and you said, where, no, I don't. Oh, come on. It's in the closet, and that just, the stress gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So what you do is, okay, we are going to put all the shoes in the closet. Okay, pick up one, I'll pick another one, let's go. And then, you do the shoes. Now we're going to put all the toys in this, or we're going to put all the dirty clothes in the basket. So you repeat those things over and over and over. Though you are programming her. The first 7 years of her life, you are programming your daughter and your son in everything. You're giving them skills, and you have to repeat them and do them as you repeat them. Then they remember, oh yeah, they go here, and they have a picture because they see you doing it. So they have a picture, they remember your words, and then you can even stay in the room as they get older and say, okay, mommy's going to be here. Let's see. Where do the shoes go? And then she goes, in the closet. Okay, let me see how you put them in the closet. And then if she's having a meltdown and I can't, no, I don't want to, or then, she is beyond her limit at that moment. Would it help if I do it with you? Yes, please. And so then you help her. Or would it help if we have a cookie first? Or, probably not a cookie, but can we have, do you want a piece of apple or, something healthy? And then, because then you don't want to create, I don't feel good with sweet from a cookie. A fruit is okay. Or they may say, no, I'm not hungry. Oh, okay. Okay. You want to drink something? No, I'm not thirsty. Okay. So then I'll help you. You grab one, I'll grab another one, and you go like that. Let me see. Can you give too much? I'll give people. Any other questions? I'm trying to read the chat, but if you want to ask, you can unmute yourself and ask me. Let's try. And one thing that I would say as I'm reading here, that it is important if your children are triggering things that are bringing back stuff from your childhood, from your personal trauma, then you deal with it. You deal with the situation when it's there, and then you need to deal with yours on your own. And we talked about doing the hand technique. And one of the things that I've been doing lately, I think I've mentioned it last time, was to use the Lord's Prayer. And let's all do it together right now so that you can see how it's done. So you put whatever situation you think about it. When you squeeze the middle of your hand, you are activating your brain to respond to you. Okay, you're activating your organs. So then you're going to go and you're going to put your hand left, right over left, and you are going to say in your mind, Our Father, you are in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That is 4 times that I'm doing this side. Then I go to the other side. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. And I did 4 on the other side. Then you release that, squeeze, release. And what you're doing is my hands are nice and warm right now. So you are activating your parasympathetic, calm your body. You are letting your body know that whatever it is, that it's there. If you think about all that the Lord's Prayer it covers everything. It covers provision when it says, give us today our daily bread. It covers forgiveness. If there's something you need to forgive from past trauma, anything that needs to be rewired and set with, like, reprogrammed, that's what the prayer is. That you're covering almost everything. You're starting with who he is. You praise him and thank him. You're asking for his will to be done on earth. That's us. We're made out of earth, as it is in heaven. You're creating your will, not my will, but yours be done. You are, I'm sorry, somebody started to walk towards my window. I'm like, what? Okay. Then what you're doing with that, and then after you ask for your provision, for your daily bread, you ask for forgiveness, you release forgiveness. Whatever it is that is causing that, you're forgiving that happened to you. Whatever it is, your brain can deal with whatever it needs to. It knows exactly what's coming up. A lot of times we're not thinking, but our emotions are flowing, and the brain can determine that. And then you are saying, lead us not into temptation. We don't want to lead back into walk into the sins of our parents and our grandparents or great-grandparents, because it goes to the 3rd and the 4th generation. So you're closing that there. Deliver us from evil. For if it's just something that is trying to influence you or deceive you, like the serpent did to Eve, for yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. So you start with praise, you end with praise, and then you let go. So that is another way to just calm yourself, and anything that comes to your mind, even if you don't know, it's like I just remember when I would hear screaming when I was a child, it just made me feel awful, and I don't know exactly what it is, but you put it in your hand, and then you do your hand technique, and you let your body to go the communication back and forth with the brain. Remember the ladder, Jacob's ladder, just let those chemicals flow, reshape the thought by using the word of God. The word of God goes and accomplishes what he sends it out to do, never comes back void. So you just, it is a common device. It's kind of like anything that you could do. You can even sing a song if you don't want to do that. You can just do this one, as long as you just activate your body, squeeze and let go. Dance, if dancing is something good that you can do, and just activate all those areas that calms your brain, organizes things, puts them where they belong, and then you're able to deal with the situations. If we can do health cleaning, so to speak, health detox on a constant basis, that communication between body and brain becomes easier, faster. It's kind of like having a fast speed internet, and then you are able to deal with things a lot easier. Let's see. Okay, and then is that why a house? So okay, so talking about organization within a house. Let me see. Clean. Okay, then.
We were talking about how, like, as adults, is it reflective of, is this reflective, this whole clutter thing, of trauma in our lives? If as adults we have a hard time keeping our homes, orderly or not?
Well, I will give you Halisa's response. Yes. It could be yes to that, or you are stressed right now. There's if this organization is something, and clutter has been with you since you can remember, then I would say you could have learned it because that's the way your house was. Or even if your house was orderly, sometimes we get the other. Remember, those coins have both sides. Sometimes we get OCD parents, and then I was one of those. At the beginning, it was like ridiculous. Everything had to be done to the extreme. And then I married Pete, and he's like, okay, we're gonna change that vocabulary. It's not I have to do this, is what needs to be done, and we'll see who's going to do it. And I'm like, that's a new concept for me. I was the only one who did everything in my house. So it was not like who's going to do it. I knew I had to do it because nobody else would. So then you become too OCD, and then you're too extreme. You don't want your kids to get anything dirty. You don't want anything to happen because you work so hard to get it in order. So then that can create all kinds of responses, because every kid is different, and they're all going to respond to that one way or another. Those coins always have two faces, two sides. So it can be so many things. You could be acting as a reaction of having an OCD parent that everything was, and then I'm like, I don't care. And, you're going to let it go, but it's not because you don't care. You are reacting because now I can. This is my house, and I am not going to be my mother. So that could be one way of seeing that. Another thing could be just you are so stressed that you can't think. you literally are having problems with your memory, and you know you left it somewhere, and then where did I leave it? Oh, I know I put it here, and now I can remember. So things like that can be just stress. If this is something, this is not me, this is really weird, I don't know what's happening now. And it could be just check and see your stress level may be so high that you are missing things and you don't even realize that you're doing what you're doing. It's not, especially if the clutter bothers you, because like when it started to bother me, then I realized, okay, this is not me, I'm not used to this. So I have to do something about it. And I didn't even know how to go about it when you realize that it got to a point where now it's beyond 1, 2, 3 simple, put this away here, put that away. All of a sudden you have a pile of papers and you don't even know where to put them. So when that happens, then it is stress. You're having a hard time handling whatever that stress is, if you have other things that you're also handling. So not necessarily. It's hard when we do things like this, because I can talk to you and ask you directly questions and then know where yours may be coming from, but it may have nothing to do with Sarita's, or I'll talk to Sarita, it may have nothing to do with Tish. So it's, or Cindy's. So it's, it becomes a personal thing at that point. So it could be, so yes, it could be one or the other, but it depends what that is to you, or in your case. I might have not answered your question. Sorry.
No, you totally answered my question. And I think you answered everybody else's too. And it was kind of like a joke in the chat. I was like, is that why my house is such a mess? Even though my house, it was a kind of a joke, because my house is actually not a mess. I'm pretty neat, and I throw everything away the second stuff gets a little too cluttered up. But it has been good to see through the chat, like Tish and Sarita both kind of relate a little, probably because of the death that they've both experienced in their lives, so it's kind of cool to watch through the chat, them kind of connect. But
right, I just read Tish's about her mom, so sorry about that. And yes, that is, and in your case, after a death, you have to remember that it's not just, and there could be, stress that has come out of that, but mostly is a grieving process. And in the grieving process, this is something that we are so bad about. And I wish, we were just talking about that on Shabbat, that we have created this, and it's not biblical. It's a way of handling grief and death in the Christian circles that is not a healthy way of dealing with death. And that is, as soon as the person dies, immediately you want to do a celebration of life and let's worship and let's this. Well, there are times, there is a cycle of grief that has to happen in order for us to deal with our pain in a healthy way. And in the biblical sense, there is a week that you literally do nothing. You just sit and deal with your pain, and you let whatever it is that you need to do. You're not taking care of others. You're not taking care of the house. But the community would chip in and everybody kicks in, because we, that is the biblical normal way of dealing with life. So when that happens, then there's people bringing food, there's people taking the kids, there's people helping with the cleaning. We would just be all in each other's lives and giving that person the time to grieve and the time to just cry, if that, or even look and stare out a window, if that is what you feel like it. So when we are able to do that, just put music, fill up a tub, grab a book, whatever it is that you need, walk, take a long walk, whatever it is that you're able to disconnect and deal with your grief, then one, your house is not a mess because everybody chips in. Your husband, your children, your friends, your family members, everybody comes in and everybody takes care of it so that you can do what you need to do. So when that's the case, and I'm talking about like the grandmother. It's your mother. That means it's the grandmother. And it depends how the kids are taking it, because the kids also are grieving. And if they need to have that, it's not a time to make sure that your house is in order and everybody has everything clean and all that stuff. That's not a time. We're grieving, period. They even would rend their clothes and throw ashes. It's not like I'm nice and clean and kept with the nice clothes on. No, it's like, I'm not here for anybody to see me. I'm not here to entertain anybody. I am dealing with my pain. And then after those 7 days, you still grieve for another month. And during that month, depending on what type of job you have, you could have gone back to work, but most likely you didn't. So those 7 days are intense, just you. And then you start like coming back into life during another month. And then from that month, then you can start going back to work or not. And then life sips back in slowly. And they don't embalm their dead. So it's not like, you can have the celebration of life in 3 days and 4 days in a week, or you're waiting for so-and-so to come from, the person dies and it's buried, period. So then that's taken care of immediately. So there's no celebration of life when you're burying somebody the next day. Or the day after. You normally bury somebody before 3 days. So that's why you see Lazarus say, it's been 4 days, the body stinks and all that stuff. So because the body needed to be in there, they are not embalming. And so with that said, if you feel like your house is a mess, because your mom just died a few months ago, it was a whole year. That, like I said, there's those periods of 7 days, then there's 30 days, and then there is a whole year. And until that year has finished, you have to remember when the man says to Yeshua that he asked him a question and he said, follow me. And then he says, no, let me bury my dead before. He wasn't in the 1 day or the second day. He would not be on the road with a plow. So that means he's already working. That means that his father has already been buried. But you wait a year, and that's when you go in and you reopen the tomb, and you take the bones and you put them in a smaller box, and then that goes into a cover with the other. That's why you lay with your ancestors. So then, and then the slab is left open for the next person that dies. It goes there. So that means that man, when he said that to Yeshua, he was within that year. So yes, you can go back to work, but you're still not going far away, because in a year you have to go in and put the bones, into that box. And that's why Yeshua says to him, let the dead bury the dead, because he is saying he's already dead, and let those that are just walking dead, pretty much, when we don't have his life and we're not walking in his purpose, we're pretty much a walking dead. We're still walking, but there's no life in us. So let them bury the dead. So that's what he was saying. He was not saying, no, your father just died, don't go and bury him. That would have been so cruel and unheard of. So that's not what was happening. So all that to say, Tish, it's not been a year. It's okay. Give yourself some grace. It's not, you're in a grieving process, and it is okay. God left provision for us to have a year to mourn. So that's my answer to that one. And I didn't see, let's see, Sarita. $16, okay. Wow. Yeah, it is. That is, it's you know, we think that we need to be strong and just say, you know, just get over it and life goes on and da da da. And no, that's not the way our Father wants us to deal with that. Okay. Anything else? Forgiveness is so releasing. Yes, Tish, forgiveness is so important. You know, I put the Lord's Prayer in that menorah, and when you divide it up, right in the middle is forgiveness. And I think it is one of the most important things that he knows we have a hard time doing. It's one of the hardest things for us to do, is forgive even ourselves and others. Okay, well, we actually went an hour and a half. So if you guys don't have any other questions, we will close it here. And we will continue. This is going to be a long, we're going to continue to deal with trauma and anxiety and depression and grief. And and I hope that we can learn this so that we can be a better community to each other. I know we're not all in the same neighborhood, but those things that we learn, we need to pass them on, and we need to create that network around us. And if it's not existing, let's teach it, because it needs to happen. We need to do that for one another and be there for each other. So any other questions?
Just real quick, I wanted to ask, as far as, because when you talked about like the little girl and then being, you know, hushed and all of that, and then she won't, so I'm like, okay, I self-censor a lot, and then I'm like, oh, if I say this, then they're not gonna like me, then almost like they'll pull back. And so how do you have any, like, I mean, I've been working on opening up, and I have a friend who he's very good about just like letting me express myself and be completely open and honest about everything. And so but I still feel myself sometimes like pulling back. And so like even yesterday, I felt really emotional, and I literally held it in for a good half hour. And I like heard the Holy Spirit saying, just let it go. Cause it was like, I knew it was a safe place, but it was like, I still held on to it. And so just like working through that. So this was really good. So I guess like those go ahead.
Yeah, it's when you hear the Holy Spirit say, let it go, he is talking to you. See, this is the way, because when you read in scripture, the Holy Spirit is actually feminine. Hebrew is like Spanish. It has objects, and even though, you know, the Holy Spirit is not an object, but we automatically make it a he, and it's not a he, it's a she. So I like to, it's just my own way of dealing with this. I see the God as a family. Okay, so we have the Father, we have the Son. I am not into the Trinitarian concept, so don't take it that way. But there is a motherhood. There is that El Shaddai is the breasted one. So he calls himself El Shaddai. I'm not making that one up. He does. He calls the Holy Spirit she. So they're all I have a family. Okay, I have a father, I have a mother, I have a big brother. So usually when Ima, and I call her Ima, so he's Abba, she's Ima, tells me to let go, she wants me to let go with her. Okay, so you find a quiet place and let it go with her. Okay, because this is what happens. We can talk to God. We don't even have to, because he knows exactly what's happened to us, even better than us. Because we don't recall some details, but God knows exactly what happened with all the details. Because we don't have to repeat everything, we can say to God, we can say to the Holy Spirit, we can say, when this happened, this is how I felt. This makes me feel this way. Now, you could do that, but the reason why I'm saying let go with her first is that you learn this. You learn to do this. So then when you talk to me or to your friends or to Mary Kay, whoever you're talking to, and you let go, you learn to let go of your emotion, but not the details of what happened. Because when you do that, you are reliving the pain. You're telling yourself again everything that happened. So you're making a deeper rot in your brain, and you are making the other person that is hearing what happened to you, you're injuring that other person with what happened to you. Because we feel, you tell me something horrible that happened to you, and I'm feeling it with you. So there is no need to do that, because what happened, and it has to stay. You had to let go of that. What is really hard for us is let go of the emotion. And the emotion is the glue that holds that event in my amygdala. So when something triggers it, that event zoom, comes right out, because that emotion is holding it in there. So what you have to get rid of is the emotion. So with that said, so let's say I was abandoned, I was rejected, I was, my mom made all those faces and sent me to my room and get away, and I don't want to see you, and I don't want to hear you, and all that all I know as a child is I've been rejected, and I have a need. Obviously I was crying for something, so I have a need, and that need is not important, because my screams bother her, and then she scream at me and send me away. And that's all the kid doesn't understand. We don't understand that. So at that point, all I would do is, I'm remembering this face, that it was an ugly face, and I understand my mom probably had issues at the moment that, and I trigger her, and it wasn't her fault. She just reacted at me. I forgive my mom for that. That made me feel neglected, abandoned, not important, whatever feeling it is that you do want to bring out. That is important, that you verbalize it as well as, exhaust every word that you could use of how it made you feel. And then you bless her. And I bless her. I forgave her, and I bless her. And then you have opened the wound, you've cleaned it up, you closed it. So with that said, then you can do that with anybody, because all I'm hearing is that you felt neglected, you felt dishonored, disrespected, unloved, not important, whatever it is. I actually have, they give you that in class for teaching on feelings, and there is like angry, happy, and then there is a long list of other words. So if you have to have a list like that, and I can take a picture and have it put on the Root Cafe, and just read them, and then say, yes, that's the one. No, oh, that one too. And then just say them. And then the person that is hearing you can empathize with you, because we all have felt neglected, unloved, and disrespected, alone, unloved. We all had that. So we can empathize with you, but I am not getting a picture of something that you're going to be okay and then I am not. And have you ever noticed how you tell your best friend something that, your mom did or your dad did or your boyfriend or your husband, and then you forget about it and she doesn't? And are you going to tell me that you're going to remember when he did this to you? So that's why we don't tell those details. We don't, because you love that person, and love covers multitude of sins. I don't love your person the same way you love him. So I will remember those things. And then I'm going to tell you about them. And I'm going to tell you, but he did this to you, because I'm still offended. I'm still holding on to that pain for you. So that's where things get so messed up, because then, here you're trying to make your marriage work, and you confide in me, and here I am trying to be your best friend, and I am going to remind you of all those things, and so then you're trying to, to move on, but I'm not letting you. I'm holding those legs, and I'm going to pull you, and I'm going to remind you of, and I'm going to open that wound, and that take a, peel that scab to make it bleed, so that you remember that it was painful. So we have to be careful with that. The same thing when we tell our parents about something, they won't forget, and they will remind you of it. So
Yeah.
it's
Thank you for that. Yeah, and actually, I guess I could have been a little more clear, but that's all good, because I know I did have I was like that for a while. Specifically yesterday, like I've been looking for housing and stuff, so it's just been really emotional and just kind of like trying to figure things out. But so yesterday, like, and he knows all of that, because we've both been kind of kind of working with each other and like helping each other kind of figure that out. And so yesterday when I was sitting there talking about it, it was just like we had a good conversation, and then after that it was like you were saying, like the emotion came, and that's what I was holding on to, and I really needed to release it. And but he was still sitting there, and I'm like, I don't want to cry in front of him, I don't want to. But it was all it, so when the Holy Spirit told me to release it, it was like, no, you need to be vulnerably emotional in front of him, so that he can see that part of you, because he knows you're strong, but you need to show that you can actually let go and just allow yourself to be in that vulnerable position, and not because it's a safe place, and he's not gonna judge you for that. And so that's what it was. It was, I think, more like that fear, like the little girl of, if I cry, then they're gonna think I'm weak, and then they're not gonna love me, or they're not gonna want to be around me, because, oh, she's weak, I can't hang out with her no more, like that kind of thing. But yeah,
right.
still like being careful, like how much you
Right.
divulge to people, so that they're not walking around with the secondhand offense like you're talking about.
Right. But another good thing is, now that so it is perfectly fine to say, to this friend, to a loved one, to somebody close, that said, okay, I need you to hear me out. I need to deal with this emotion. And then I am going to go there right now. Is that okay with you? And obviously they're going to say sure. And then you do it. Then you go, I had this that happened to me, and you don't have to say what this was. This happened to me. Oh, and it made me feel this and this and this and that, and I just need to release that. And I forgive that person. I bless that person, and because God knows who it is, and you don't have to say the name. And and just pray it out loud, because he says that we confess to each other, and I'm confessing to you, this is how I feel, and I just need to get that out of my chest. And so then the person is just seeing a healthy way of dealing with emotions, and when that person feels that they need to do that same thing, they're going to feel very it's going to be easy for them. They're going to feel safe with you, because you just did that with them. So even if they didn't know how to even do that, you just model it for them. You just, walked it out. And that is perfectly fine. There's no problem in that. Okay, ladies, I am going to close this. It's going to be almost 2 hours for those that are going to listen. I pray you all have a great week. And for those of you that are dealing with family right now, and some may celebrate Christmas and some may not celebrate Christmas, remember that it's all about the heart and love. Don't put anybody down for not seeing things the way you see them. Only God opened its eyes, and He has a perfect timing for everyone. Just you don't have to participate in something that it's going to be hard for you to do. You do have your parameters, and it's okay. But at the same time, you can be honest with where you're at and respect where somebody else is. And don't burn bridges with your loved ones, because it's those bridges are there so that they can come back to you when God opens their eyes, and then they don't feel like, now I don't know where to go with this, because now I don't have friends or I don't have family. So it's always important: safety first, love second, and then we reason and we solve the problem and we go there. But safety first and love. So have a safe and loving end of the year. So we're gonna end the year, the Gregorian calendar, soon, and we will see each other next month in year 2022. Blessings to all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.